What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So I thought I would go ahead and do another video. It's been a little while now, so it was long overdue. Updating my top 10 small forwards. All right. Last time I did it was a little over a year ago, so I thought I would go ahead and update my top 10 small forwards. Just to do a brief recap before I go further, at number 10, I had James Worthy. Number 9, Dominique Wilkins. Number 8, Scottie Pippen. Number 7, I had Rick Barry. Number 6, Elgin Baylor. Now, this is the one where, actually two, where I've made some changes. Last time, at number 5, I had John Havlicek. But I've decided that I think Kevin Durant should be pushed down just a little bit. I had him at number 4 last time. I pushed him back down to number 5. All right? Some people may not agree with that. It is what it is. Kevin Durant, because I think before I was projecting, and he's still going to be an all-time great, but there's some things about him that, you have to poke some holes at. You know what I'm saying? It's just being fair. But still, to me, KD, top 5 all-time small forward. Great player. Number 5, Kevin Durant. When you look at his resume, before I go forward, 2-time NBA champion. Now, of course, some people don't like to give him the same credit for those championships as maybe like a Kobe Bryant title or Dirk's or Jordan's, because some people feel like he played on a super team. But the fact remains that he still won 2 NBA championships. And even though some people like to call him a bus rider, he still won final MVP twice. So, I mean, you can't really call him a role player if in the finals they deemed him the best player on those teams twice. And I definitely remember in 2019 the way the media covered the Warriors. He definitely seemed like he was the most important piece. The way they were covering him then. I'm just saying back then. Now subsequently since then, now it seems like Curry is superior to him. I'm not going to challenge it. I'm just saying it's how it is now. He won an MVP award back in the 2013-14 season, back when he was with the Thunder. He is a 12-time NBA All-Star, 2-time NBA All-Star Game MVP, 6-time All-NBA First Team, 4-time All-NBA Second Team. He was the NBA Rookie of the Year back in 2007-2008, back when he was still playing with the then Seattle Supersonics. He was on the NBA All-Rookie First Team that year. He is a 4-time scoring champion and representative of how great a shooter he is, as well as scorer. Back in 2012-2013, he had a 50-40-90 season, meaning that he shot 50% from the floor, 40% from 3, and 90% from the foul line. And he's on the NBA's 75th anniversary team. And this season, Kevin Durant is soaring amongst the all-time leading scorers. I believe he recently surpassed, or at least he's getting close to, he's getting close to 26,000 career points. And he's starting to really climb up that all-time list. And had he not missed the entire 2019-20 season, he'd be even higher on the all-time list. For his career, he's a 49.6% career shooter. He's an 88.5% career free throw shooter, one of the best free throw shooters in the history of the NBA. And he's a 38.3% career three-point shooter. And for many years, he was teamed with Russell Westbrook. That team when you think about it, had 3 league MVPs, future league MVPs, with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. Um, that team started coming of age back in 2000. I think it was 2010 when they played the eventual champion Lakers in the first round. Got us a hell of a first round matchup when you think about it. But anyway, the Lakers played them, I think, in the first round. I cannot remember the spread, but ultimately they lost to the Lakers in the first round. But that team would go to the NBA Finals in 2012, but they played against that super team, the Miami Heat, ultimately losing 4 games to 1. Now, many people saw the combination of Russell Westbrook, one of the most athletic point guards in the history of the NBA, if not the most athletic in his prime, and Kevin Durant. Many people thought that was going to be a championship contending team for many years to come. However, in the playoffs, oftentimes the back and forth scoring strategy of that team was exposed. Oftentimes you just got 2 guys just shooting the basketball, often playing with Russ, who's playing hero basketball, trying to, go 1-on-3. That shit doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, KD felt frustrated playing in OKC. The team didn't have a lot of shooters, per se, when he was there. And oftentimes, because of that, when they went up against some of the better teams in the playoffs, teams often doubled KD and dared him to become a passer. Back in those days, he was not a great facilitator. Oftentimes, he would turn over the ball, or they would dare other people to shoot or score. They didn't really have a lot of shooters, and ultimately that hindered the Thunder. Not to mention the fact that I think that their first coach, Scott Brooks, was not that great, and Billy Donovan, who's now the head coach of the Chicago Bulls, Billy Donovan is a terrible strategist. Even to this day, Billy Donovan gets outcoached thoroughly by everybody. Even Mike Budenholzer. Mike Budenholzer, who I think is a subpar coach a lot of times, will outcoach Billy Donovan. But, that's another debate for another day. KD then went to the Warriors in one of the most, perhaps the most controversial offseason move in the history of the NBA. Perhaps even more so than LeBron going to Miami. Because even though LeBron went to Miami, that was not a team that had already been constructed as a champion. I believe the year before LeBron went there, Miami lost in the first round to the Boston Celtics. I think they were like 46-36, whereas the Warriors were 73-9. Okay, so a lot of people, including myself, thought that was a weak move. And having said all of that, KD has a right to go wherever the hell he wanted to go. But, and this is just my opinion, y'all, as time went on, and it became apparent that LeBron was moving west, there was a lot of media pressure for KD to move east because they wanted that Warriors team broken up so that LeBron could win some titles. I'm talking about some of the Clutch Sports affiliated journalists out there, right? So KD, even though the media wanted him to go to New York, he went to Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving, and things have just not worked out the way that people thought they would. The first year, of course, KD was coming off of the Achilles rupture that he suffered during the 2019 playoffs. So that year, you weren't really expecting anything. But the next year, when KD was healthy and back, most people thought that team was going to be a championship contender. But guess what? Brooklyn got greedy. KD and Kyrie got greedy. They acquired James Harden. And even though at times James Harden did play very well that season, I think it was the 2020-21 season, they could never keep the three guys on the floor at the same time. They couldn't really build chemistry. Ultimately, that team lost in the second round to the eventual champion Milwaukee Bucks. Last year, of course, there was a lot of issues involving James Harden. Ultimately, he wanted out of Brooklyn. He was traded to Philly, essentially in return for Ben Simmons. There was, of course, other pieces that were swapped as well. Ben Simmons didn't play a lick of basketball, eventually having surgery in the offseason on his back. And ultimately, Boston lost in the first round to the eventual Eastern Conference champion, Boston Celtics. In that particular series, KD looked terrible. Terrible. So now we're here. This is the only guy on the list outside of another guy who is still currently playing. I guess you pretty much know who that is. But he hasn't been featured yet. But KD's still playing. I believe he's 33, 34. I think he's 34 years old. Still a lot of basketball left. The Brooklyn Nets are not what they should be. They look better since Steve Nash has been fired. Ben Simmons is, in my opinion, done as a player. He's been a complete and total waste. He's not going to get much better. He is a guy that is essentially just getting checks to do very little. All right? And I think Ben Simmons ultimately is going to be the poster boy for everything that's wrong with the NBA and why the owners are going to take back so much during the next collective bargaining agreement. But anyway, KD's still one of the all-time greats, man. Top 5 player in the league, probably. I'd say top 5. May have slipped a little bit. You could argue he was the best player in the NBA a couple of years, but I think he slipped a little bit. Still one of the best, and still has a lot of basketball left in him. I think that he'll eventually cross the 30,000 point plateau. Whether or not he'll ever win another championship, he's won 2, and he's definitely cemented himself as one of the all-time great players. Now, off the court, as a personality, there's some flaws, and this is why I had to bring him down. I don't think he's much of a leader. Okay, he's not much of a leader. I think that's primarily what's wrong with this franchise. They lack leadership. Steve Nash is not a leader. Kevin Durant is not a leader. Kyrie Irving is not a natural leader. He's a very intelligent, inquisitive person, but he's not a guy that's very good at leading the troops. They don't have that. You could also argue that KD is a guy that is not, sometimes I wonder if some of these players are a little bit too satisfied. Like, I got a championship. I'm satisfied. The all-time greats were greedy when it came to that. Michael, Kobe, Bill Russell, Bird, Magic, they always wanted to win. They never had enough. Their appetite was insatiable for winning. Some of these guys, I think they get a little bit complacent when they win titles. See Anthony Davis on that one. But anyway, that's pretty much it, man. Kevin Durant, tenacious scorer. We never seen a guy like him when he was drafted. 6'9". A lot of comparisons to George Gervin. He doesn't like to list himself as 7 feet tall, but you look at him, he's clearly taller than LeBron James, who's about 6'9". Clearly, significantly taller. He looks to be at least KD. KD is at least 6'10" and a half. 6'10" and a half in height. And if you put shoes on him, he's about 7 feet tall. 7'2" wingspan, can shoot from all over the court. And sometimes I hesitate to call Steph Curry the greatest shooter because a guy like KD can shoot from all over the floor. He doesn't quite have the range of Steph Curry as far as accuracy, even though he's close. But from 22 feet in, I don't know if I would say Curry's a better shooter than KD. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes KD can fall short in the clutch. So anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.